Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and it's time once again for a relatively modest figure update video, wherein I like to show the boxes that the figures came in and the respective figures themselves a little bit, talk about them a little bit. In this case, a couple of anime figures, one KanColle, one KonoSuba, and then a couple of Star Wars Black Series figures, two of which are actually 40th anniversary, which I got through eBay. There were some sellers who were able to get their hands on them months ahead of time. I hear they're actually starting to come out in stores and everything like that, out in the wild, as they say, whereas I have one pre-ordered that I'm going to have to wait till summertime, apparently, for. Even though I could probably, if I had transportation, I could find a local Target and try to get one there. Whatever. That's the way the cookie crumbles. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, so I wanted to show off these figures and, just continue on that tradition of every once in a while when I get some new stuff that I'm excited about, share it with you guys, give you an idea what it looks like in case you might have a similar interest and want to seek these out. And I guess we'll start with the Black Series, the Star Wars stuff first. And the first one out of the park that I got was R2-D2. And this is opened. I did open it. I tried my best to sort of cut along the plastic line so I could still keep the very old school Kenner style, card back intact, as intact as possible. Not to keep the figure in necessarily. I mean, I'm housing R2 here for now until I have some way to display my Star Wars figures and all of my figures really in general. That's why you don't mostly see a lot of stuff back here, like 3 KanColle figures and stuff. I would rather have a whole wall unit where I could display all my stuff, but most of that stuff is boxed away under my table, desk in my room, or in my closets and things of that nature. But with R2, this was a figure I remember seeing in my local Target when I still had a vehicle and I could still get there without any sort of issue. Which unfortunately I haven't been to that Target in over a year because it's too far to get to even via bus, public transportation, and taxis and all of that stuff ain't happening. I don't have the money for that. But I remember seeing the original release of this in the Black Series, and at that time, he was one of the first wave of Black Series figures. I couldn't wrap my head around if this was going to be a series that would be this long lasting. I would never have guessed. I'm somebody who much prefers the 6-inch figures to the 3 3/4 and everything like that. And it was kind of answering to my hopes and dreams. Like, wow, this is what I've wanted all my life. Star Wars figures in this scale. Finally got it, but I didn't know, for the life of me, would this actually continue on? Would it pick up pace? Would it become so acclaimed? And there is still a very love-hate relationship with the way Hasbro produces their pieces and such like that. I think my first Black Series figure that I purchased might have been from the first wave, which was the Slave Leia from Return of the Jedi. But, I saw this guy and I debated buying him at the time and I never did. And now you can't get this effing thing anywhere online without it being scalper priced because of its rarity, because they didn't make a whole host of them, at least enough for everyone to have one and everything like that. So it became a chase thing. It became a scalper thing. Even this 40th anniversary re-release that most people could probably go to the store, buy for $20. As soon as this thing became available, they were already hiking up the prices. Now, I thought I'd have to wait 6 to 8 months before these things would come out. And what Hasbro ended up doing, I forget during which convention, toy fair or otherwise, they announced a limited release of a bunch of the 40th anniversary stuff months ahead of time. And so I paid a little extra through eBay from an eBay seller. I chalked that up to just shipping. That's how I sort of, resigned myself to, you probably paid a little much for it. About $60. And that was for the prestige of having a figure I could never ordinarily afford at the scalpers prices all over the internet, as well as having it nearly half a year early from when they were supposed to come out. And make up for that void in my collection, I had gotten my hands on the Walgreens exclusive C-3PO from A New Hope, needed R2 and such like that, so I snagged him, and I love him. I love him to pieces. So that was the number one. The number two from the 40th anniversary that I ended up getting through eBay once again, and whereas the R2 was back in February, this was a March, buy that I made. And that, for about the same price, is the Star Wars Legacy pack that came with the special brand new sculpt of Darth Vader. As you can see, he is absent, and the package, you can see it's sort of shorn apart and everything. Again, I tried to keep the card back as sturdy as possible, but this thing is a behemoth. From what I understand, it's like 40 something and change if you buy it in the store. Again, I paid 60, so that's technically 20 bucks shipping once again, and the prestige of having it early, although, you know, 3-4 weeks later and they're already coming out for everyone to get. But, you know, you can see everything inside it. The card backing has 2 different display versions. One is all the reproduction art of the 70s backing that you got if you got the early bird set. All of the figures in the wave, Vader himself, and on the front you can actually see the alternative backing, which has an X-Wing going after, presumably, Luke's X-Wing and the Death Star in a sort of disco ball framework. Just giving you display ideas. And I might actually frame that back, you know, that art backing, I don't know, that art card. All of which, you know, is comprised in this section, all the parts, bits and bobs. I haven't opened any of those yet. But as you can see, Vader is not in there, as I say. Turned out the day that this arrived on my doorstep via the USPS, my sister had actually gone to Walgreens to fill a prescription, and she saw that they had a figure I'd been seeking for a long time, had never had the fortune to find. I'm still mind blown that Walgreens gets any toys at all, you know, let alone have exclusive Marvel Legends and Star Wars Black Series, things like that cropping up. But to go alongside Vader was Jango Fett, and this is the Jango box. And as you can see, as I tend to do, I display, you know, figures in the box like this, or I put them away that way, just to conserve space, because all the boxes would build up, and it'd be like I could probably create a fort in my one of my bedrooms in my apartment. My sister would have to be out on the couch, and I'd create a fort of all the figure boxes in her room or something. But yeah, the Vader, this head sculpt and everything, it's an original head sculpt, brand new. The body is all remolded and redone, and this is, I highly recommend. Don't listen to me about this figure. It'll take a whole video of probably 20 minutes in length to go over everything about how exquisite a piece of art, a piece of work this Vader is. There are myriad videos who could do much more effectively and eloquently than I could to tell you how this thing is a modern work of art. The Black Series Hasbro hit it out of the park with this sucker. So glad I had seen the review that I did that compelled me to seek it out and buy it, replace my original Black Series Darth Vader figure with the sad puppy dog eyes and the removable helmet. And as I say, Jango, awesome. So those are pretty much, you know, what I got as far as Black Series Star Wars figures. And now, if I can catch my breath, on to the anime figures. The first we will look at is Shiranui, I think is how it's pronounced, from KanColle, in her preparation guise, I guess, about to go into battle, something along those lines. And she's adorable. Now, there's an interesting aspect to this figure, though, as I will take her out, that I've noticed in some of the other KanColle figures I've gotten. She is a strangely sized piece. She is kind of within the 7-inch tall range, and if you look the way they package her in the box, it's kind of interesting, because she is somewhat, you know, small, and she comes with a clear base that you put her on and everything like that. And but as compared to the other KanColle figures I have, there are really large ones, going 8 and 9 and 10 inches tall. And then there are ones that are about the same height as this figure. But strangely, the proportions of this figure compared to those is somewhat different. And she doesn't quite immediately align. If you go back over my figure showcase videos, some of the first KanColle ones that I've done videos for, not in this format, just showcasing the figures and putting them together and everything like that, were Kagi and Kaga. And she's relatively a similar size, but if you look at like her head is much larger, as if not to scale directly the same size. You know, it's really kind of strange. It's like it's a middle ground between those 7-inch figures, very slightly smaller, you know, substantially in size figures, as compared to, like, say, these 3 KanColle back here, which are more like 8 inches, something like that. They are made to look thicker and everything. She almost stands more in line with them, but because of her shortness, I mean, I guess she's just a little girl compared to the builds of the other ones. In this case, Fubuki, Yudachi, and Mutsuki. So it's kind of hard to figure out where she would fit in a display. Like, would she be in the middle ground where Akagi and Kaga, who are the smaller figures, would then, be like the first round, and then she would be in the middle in between them and like these three, which are bigger. In my previous video, I showed Shoho and Nagato, and those are far bigger than she is. I think Nagato towers over her. So it's just an interesting size ratio. I don't know which line she's supposed to format to, unless it's a whole new size ratio thing, because it's part of this, preparation mode line. I don't know. But she's adorable. I love the purple hair, the little, whatever the hell that is, the barbell or something, hair thing. She's tying her tie. She's got a glove in her mouth. Like, she's preparing. And I've seen some fan artwork of her that suggests she's somewhat of a tyrannical badass in battle. So it's like, to see her more subdued and reserved and just sort of, nonchalantly getting all prepared, tying her gloves on and whatever like that, or tying her tie and putting her gloves on. It's just an interesting thing to me. It's an interesting, distinction between the sizes of those other figures. And to put this in the box, too, it's quite interesting. Again, with the backing, the way they do it, you don't want to put it in so that the back of the plastic is where, you close the box, where you overlap that. So you make sure you put it in the other way. So she's sort of facing front or facing reverse, as the case may be. And so, yeah, Shiranui. If I'm not pronouncing that correctly, please post below how that is supposed to be pronounced. And finally, the piece de resistance from KonoSuba, Megumin. Specifically, KonoSuba Season 2, apparently. There were 3 brand new figures released for Season 2, or at least to coincide with it. Of course, Megumin, Darkness, and Aqua. And so far, I've only gotten Megumin. I only really planned to get her. I didn't actually know they were making the other figures or anything, so if time and funds eventually permit, I'd like to get the other 2 to go alongside her. But this one's a pretty big piece. And the crazy thing, this is the one that I got for steel through eBay. The box was sealed, but it looked like it had been retaped, as though someone had at least taken it out, maybe to display it. I've seen a couple channels on YouTube that actually coincided with it, and I think I had commented on one saying, wow, I'd like to get my hands on that figure. And the person had said, check eBay, and just so happened, like later that day, I found a listing that was highly, highly inexpensive, whereas this figure, usually, I'm seeing the listings, the average is about 30 to 40 bucks. I got her for 14, and no shipping. Other than the wait time to be shipped from Japan, which was like a month and a half almost, no complaints whatsoever. Paid half price. Okay, so I paid a little more for R2 and Vader from the Black Series 40th, but this figure I got for 14. Can't really complain at all. And of course the plastic, as you can see, she is incomplete. There is some assembly required. Her hand and her staff. Her staff is in 2 bits. Her hand is holding on to the bottom bit, so it is not, removable in any way. You put that into the socket, and then she's got the hat suspended above her, casting her explosion magic, whatever like that. And then, of course, you have the standee base. Very, very cool. And what the hell does that say? Skill. Okay. There's like, what is it, stats? I don't have any idea. Oh, okay, I see. The explosion cloud. First time I'm looking at the base is while I'm on camera, and I'm looking at the camera screen to figure out what it is. And so yeah, enough of that jazz. Get to the figure, Johnny. And now this is, again, for the size of this thing, for the price this thing is normally taking in. Now, again, as I say, it did look like it had perchance been opened, but the figure looks untouched, and like perhaps I would think it was highly hilarious if the video I had seen turned out to be, that's where this, you know, the seller is the guy who made the video just to showcase the piece, so you get an idea of what it looked like, maybe provoke you to order it. And because, like I say, I found that listing the day after, or even maybe later that night, after the cat said, "Oh, go check eBay." So I did, and there it is. And that's the only rationalization I could come up with as to why I would get this figure for like half the average pricing I'm seeing everywhere else, 30 and above, $30 and above. And so, as I opened this, the bits of her magic staff went flying, and I've gotten them all back together again. As you can see, Megumin, as she comes out of the package, sans hand. Speaking of Vader, I guess she went in dual mode with Vader. And is this his daughter in another universe? I am the father. Anyway, as you can see, badass pose. She's about to cast her explosion magic. Somebody is effed on the other end of that, whoever it may be. And love the cape, love the action pose, as I say. You can't really make it out because of the sunlight hitting it, but there is that brace on her leg as the animated character, is depicted. And it's got nice lines across it, or stocking, whatever it is, but it always looked like a leg brace because of it looks like bandages to my eye. And just the paint overall is pretty exquisite. I haven't seen any real mess-ups. There is some minor, like, what looks like it might be glue bits from gluing this piece down, but nothing really noticeable to the naked eye, unless you're really, like, studying it. And now the hat piece is interesting. I was wondering if this might be magnetized, but it's not. You just sort of, it's a very loose piece. As you can see, the indentation of her head is perfectly sized to sit on her head in a specific way. Kind of reminds me of the mages of Final Fantasy with like 2 eyes and, the grill there. So it's an interesting thing. I thought maybe it would lock down via magnet or something, but as I say, you just sort of find how it sits on her head, and then it's pretty sturdy. There's really no fear of, as long as there aren't any earthquakes or you're, running around your room wrestling with your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, you're not going to really knock it off too bad. And you can't really reposition it too much. That's about as much give as you get. If you want the hat on, it kind of, shadows her face. But the other thing, as I say, is the magic staff. Like I said, wand, maybe, but whereas I meant staff. And this is a tricky one because this little tiny bit right here has to fit into that. And it just seems so fine, like, I think, I don't know if you can make that out necessarily, but there is an odd shape to it. It's kind of like a puzzle piece you want to put in. You have to put it in the right way, and otherwise there isn't really much give. And it's a delicate thing. I mean, you push that on there too rough, and I'm just so afraid that it's going to snap, and I'm going to have to, like, glue this thing. I'm not going to push it on too far, because I don't want to mess it up, since I'm going to be putting it back in the box for the time being anyway. And the same goes for the hand. Of course, like most prize figures, it has a little thing that you will put into the socket, and again it is shaped thusly, so it goes in a specific way, and hopefully I can figure that out. And there we go. Nice. I was afraid with the glasses on I wouldn't be able to see the high detail, but this is her with her staff. Now when I saw the initial images, it looked like they had first constructed this figure, this piece, with a staff that was removable, and I've seen pictures where it's not angled this way. This top bit with the magic ball, which is kind of cool how they attached it there. Just a little white protrusion, and that, gives it the visual like it is floating, like it is in the animation. But it wasn't angled this way, and it led me to believe that you would have the staff as a separate piece to slide into her hand, but of course with the way her hand is angled, that would be falling out like crazy. That would aggravate me like mad, probably. I'd be sitting here watching an anime, watching a movie, hanging out with my sis, and I'd hear kerplunk, and I'd be like, okay, what the hell was that? And then go find Megumin's staff is out of her hand, on the floor somewhere in pieces. And, but yeah. Dope piece. Just absolutely beautiful and brilliant, as always. Kind of giving you the full effect here And as you can see, she's a tall one. I didn't actually measure her, but I'm just going to guess 8.5 inches, something like that. And freaking badass. I love her character. She's my favorite character from KonoSuba. And the joke of her only having the explosion magic never gets old on me. It never lost its luster. The fact that she knocks herself out, and you know, you'll have the MC, whose name escapes me off the top of my head, having to like carry her home a la Luke and Yoda, with Yoda as the backpack and everything. And yeah, she's my favorite character from KonoSuba. Explosion! You know? And so, yeah, that is pretty much the limit of what I wanted to show off for the time being. Latest pickups, anime stuff, Star Wars Black Series. Usually this series is confined to anime figures, but I've been wanting to branch out to other things that I've been getting. I could have, in fact, probably gone ahead and shown off a couple Walgreens exclusive Marvel Legends, Punisher, and Namor as well. I got my hands on those back in, I want to say, January. My sister grabbed me the Punisher in a similar fashion how she did Jango Fett, and surprised me with it, you know, got me it as a gift. And whereas with Namor, she had been at Walgreens again picking up a prescription on a, you know, back in January sometime, and was like, I was like, you know, what figures do they have there at the moment? She's like, the only thing I'm really seeing is like Darth Vader with the, you know, Emperor lightning globe effect on his you know, helmet. Not really impressed with that. And then she's like, there's Namor, and I'm like, wait, whoa, Namor? Oh, okay, so I wanted Namor. Big time fan of Aquaman, much more a DC fan than I have ever been Marvel. But I still do like Marvel properties and everything like that. And Namor is a character, he is kind of the Marvel equivalent of Aquaman. But I digress. Largely, no one can say I'm not definitely verbose in my videos. But wanted to share these with you guys, and I could not more highly recommend. I'll tell you the truth, man. If I hadn't found this beauty for $14, half the average price I'm seeing it going for, I would have gladly paid $35 for it. It's just an exquisite piece overall. And the color, the paint, everything, the detail, the character is beloved. And so it is, you know, money well spent if you love the character and you really want a figure form of her. Similarly with all of this stuff, really, I mean, I don't like to think I waste money. I buy stuff that I genuinely want. I'm not have to have every, collect them all, every piece of a collection ever. I just get the characters and the things I like, and love her character. Really loved the design of this character. I've never played KanColle's video game. I've only watched the anime. And so some of the figures that I've gotten, Shoho included, well, I think we see Shoho briefly in the anime, but this is a character I had no familiarity with. I just love the design of her and the look of her costume, her purple hair, and kind of reminds me of Hotaru from, what do you call it? I can't think of the name of the damn anime off the top of my head. Tagashi Kashi, that's what it is. And again, R2, Vader, and Jango, all good stuff. And it's not frequent that I'm able to get such fond and beloved goodies for my collection, my sort of, you know, whatever things I like, I go after. And so yeah, I highly recommend any of these pieces if you can find them affordably. If you have the money to spend, definitely grab them if interested, and you will not be sorry for it. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this long, rambly figure showcase video of a sort, and hope you are all well. And let me know if you got any recent acquisitions of your own that you're proud of and really happy and satisfied with. That's kind of one of the things I wish there was more content with these videos. I'm not sitting here to try to be a braggart. I really want to get a conversation rolling to share back and forth the things we have all gotten and collected and love. You know, there are, I'm sure, are things that I would have interest in equally to your own, as well as stuff that I would be like, wow, that's really cool, but not really my bag, you know, whatever like that. But yeah, I hope this video finds you well. That'll be pretty much it for me on this, and I'll catch you later. Peace.